Greetings and welcome to the channel. My name is Dr. Nana Gyesie, transformational coach at Inner Mileage, where we help folks transform and optimize their lives and understand the trauma basis of limiting self-belief so one can take inspired action to overcome it. Today we're going to talk about the empath awakening, why life is a dream and presence is the key to freedom. In this transmission, particularly, we're going to dismantle the matrix of ordinary perception itself. So you realize that this is not just a conversation about emotions or coping strategies, it's a rigorous deconstruction of reality itself. And it's through the perspective of neuroscience, cognitive philosophy, and so forth. And the point we're making is, life is not what you think it is. It is a dream, a projection of mind and conditioning. And presence in the present moment is your only true key to freedom as an empath. So I invite you to drop your assumptions and lean in with the full intelligence of your heart and mind and allow this transmission to disrupt your paradigms. So let's begin this by anchoring this inquiry into a rigorous intellectual framework. I want to start first with the allegory of the cave. So in Plato's Republic, right, what Plato does is describe humanity as prisoners chained inside a cave, only seeing shadows, the shadows on the wall projected behind them. And the shadows represent our conditioned perceptions, cultural programming, egoic self-images, all of which the empath absorbs more acutely than most. And the empath's gift is their sensitivity, but without awakening, it becomes a curse. So the empath feels the flickering shadows of illusion as real and may even end up internalizing distortions as personal failures. When we go deeper into philosophy and some philosophical thinking around this, Schopenhauer, the great philosopher, extended this insight even further, arguing that life itself is driven by an unconscious will to live. And what we see, what we call the world, is a mere representation filtered through human cognition. In other words, the empath feels this will, not just their own, but everyone's, yet misinterprets that experience as obligation. And cognitive science posited even that this evolution shaped our senses not for truth, but for survival. This is David Hoffman, on the interface of the theory of perception. And our perceptions are analogous to icons on a desktop, useful, but not reflective of objective reality, the conditioned reality. So the empath's nervous system is designed to pick up far more signals than most. And those signals themselves are still part of an evolutionary interface, not ultimate reality. As a result, the empath must awaken to the fact that what they see, feel, and sense is part of an illusion that must be transcended, not healed within. Now, when you go further into more esoteric revelations on this, in the Upanishads, it said, Tat Tvam Asi. Tat Tvam Asi, meaning thou art that, I am that. I am that. And I reference this to the great teacher, Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj. This simple statement is so profound because it collapses the duality between the self and the cosmos into non-duality. So for you, the empath watching this means you're not just a separate self feeling others' emotions, you're the very field in which all emotions arise. And that's not a euphemism or a metaphor, that is reality. And this realization liberates you from being a sponge to becoming an expansive, impersonal field of awareness. Now, when we go even further into the branch of Buddhism, in Vajrayana Buddhism called Dzogchen, it's one of the highest Tibetan paths. It's taught there that waking life and the dream life are the same substance, empty, luminous awareness. The empaths are often natural lucid dreamers because empaths are attuned to subtlety. But this faculty must be reclaimed consciously in waking life. In other words, when you think about the Hermetic principle of mentalism, that the all is mind, right? All is mind. You cannot interact with the world without a mind. In the same way, you cannot fully interact with the divine without a heart, right? The empath's burden becomes their power, because when they understand that all they perceive is a mental projection shaped by individual and collective thought forms, everything becomes clear. And in esoteric terms, empathic overwhelm happens when one believes that the forms are real, that every dog barking deserves attention. And empathic liberation occurs when one recognizes that one's mind is purified by presence, and that reshapes the forms that you see. So when we go into neuroscience, it even goes deeper into how we can wake up from this illusion, this dream, that the so-called default mode network, DMN, is responsible for maintaining a sense of a continuous autobiographical self, the me. So it replays this subatomically, fractally, moment by moment by moment. It's hyperactive, particularly in trauma survivors and highly sensitive people, which leads to an over-identification with thoughts, narratives, and memories. And in advanced meditation, research shows that the default mode network, DMN, actively decreases significantly, particularly when one is in advanced meditation states. In other words, you are neurologically predisposed to a default mode way of thinking due to heightened ability to internalize projections and emotional attunement. So your path is not to suppress this, but to disidentify from it, meaning that this is where presence comes in as a neurobiological regulation and spiritual liberation simultaneously, being able to disassociate yourself from just the default mode and being able to see things as they are. When you think about this, what does it mean in a practical perspective? It means your emotions are not evidence of reality. They are evidence of conditioning. Similarly, your triggers are not personal flaws. They are invitations to witness without identification. And then further, empathic exhaustion is a sign that you are engaging with the dream as a character, not observing as a witness. This is so important. Empathic exhaustion is a sign that you are engaging with the dream as a character, not observing as a witness. And I'm in high observation as I say this to you, observing the witness that is transmitting this Dharma to you. In relationships, workplaces, and family systems, often empaths play the role of caretaker, therefore absorbing dysfunction. And liberation happens when you break this contract, realizing that it was forged with an illusion, a family or society asleep inside a collective dream. This is what happens. If any of this resonates with you, type transform in the comment section or send me a message at innermileage.com. But I want to say that as you continue to wake up, you realize that you abandon identification with the doer. You have the right to work, but not to the fruits of your work. In other words, you must realize your actions are impersonal movements within a vast interconnected karmic field. And when you stop taking ownership, the burden lifts tremendously. And also important to realize that your presence means total immersion in the immediate sensory field without cognitive overlay, meaning feel the breath not just as an idea but as a sensation. See colors not as objects but as pure phenomena. And as you begin to do this, you realize that empirical evidence in quantum research shows that particles behave differently when observed. Therefore, when you begin to observe your consciousness, it itself shapes reality. Meaning you're constantly shaped by your perceived reality, by your quality of attention and identification. And the awakened empath shapes a luminous, peaceful reality because they observe everything as a dream. So realize that you're not separate from the source. You're not a helper for other people's feelings. You are the luminous awareness in which all feelings arise and dissolve. When you realize this, you realize there's no one like you. Type transform in the section, comment section, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Shine your light and see you next time. Peace.